Hello guys, and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, then tap on the subscribe button. Do give this video a thumbs up by tapping on the like button, and feel free to share your own thoughts on what you think about this video. Now, in today's video, we're taking a look into a powerful debate surrounding politics, predictions, and the role of marginalized communities in the fight for justice. Now, a recent video from a palm-colored lady has sparked intense reactions, claiming that the reason liberals are targeting certain creators is because they accurately predicted the election's outcome, implying that their other predictions might also be accurate. But that's not all. She also touches on the phenomenon of religious favor being transferred to politicians who don't deserve it. It's a fascinating perspective and one that has garnered reactions from my Black brothers. Now, one of them pointed out that progress is hindered when we prioritize people who don't understand the importance of protecting the most vulnerable. Instead, people should focus on liberating the most oppressed groups. Now, in this video, we will explore a deeper, more important issue: how the system continually fails the most oppressed groups, including Black, Native American, and other groups. Now, some argue that progress can never truly happen as long as these communities aren't centered in the conversation. So with that said, join me as my Black brothers break down this heated exchange and unpack why true liberation means lifting up the most vulnerable. I will be right back.
Not that anybody asked me, but the only reason that liberals are going after all of these random creators is because they accurately predicted the outcomes of the election, and the implication is that the other things that they're predicting about are also accurate. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. A lot of it is also religious fervor that's transferred onto politicians that do not deserve that religious fervor. They are literally idolizing politicians, when in reality, anybody who has eyes or ears or is able to communicate in any meaningful way could have told you that all polls, all political experts, all predicted the same thing when it came to the election, which was that if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't simultaneously move away from the policy of being an entire people group, that the majority of the general public that already doesn't like to vote is especially not going to vote because they don't have representation in politics. It is the politicians' job to represent them and to garner votes. But because these political experts and the politicians themselves are not readily available for them to crucify, they are instead reaching for the most low-hanging fruit that they can find, and Imani happens to be a disabled and Black political commentator and social commentator who is very, very accessible and very vulnerable. Quite literally, radical liberals have formed a religious cult around Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And if a fraction of this energy would have gone to holding their politicians accountable, Kamala Harris would have actually won the election. This is because she would have been forced to deviate from the Gaza policy, and people would have voted for her just on that merit alone. She could have moved right on literally every other issue, and she still would have won if she only conceded where Gaza was concerned.
The reason why progress will never happen is because you guys keep propping up people who do not understand protecting the lowest of the low. If you wanted liberation for all, you would want to liberate the people who are most oppressed, and right now that would be trans people in America, Native Americans in America, Black Americans in America. The fact that you guys are so fixated on, instead of helping these groups, you want to condescend and demean and demand work from these groups instead, that's why there's no forward progress. The people you propped up, none of them are Black American. Did you notice that? Did you notice that none of them fit into any of the specific marginalized groups I talked about being the most oppressed? And some of them have some level of oppression. Maya is a Palestinian woman living in America. Crutches and Spice is a Black woman with disability who lives in America. She's not Black American. And Saint is a Black gay man who's not Black American living in America. They get to bypass some of that suffering because they don't experience the oppression of being Black American. They don't experience the oppression of being Native American. They don't experience the oppression of being trans. Those three groups are experiencing, and they are having some of the most litigious lifestyles. What I mean is, Black American, Native American, and trans people are the people who are the most political, meaning that our existence itself is political, because a lot of the politics that's happening right now are specifically to subjugate these three people groups. And you can't expect these three people groups to want to support and labor for you when you can't even support them on a fundamental basis. You guys can't talk about being pro standing up against when you let them in your background and all around you. You only care about the ones that are the most convenient and easiest to fight. because you can say how much you hate in Palestine, and that makes you feel like a good person. But standing up and fighting for the people who are literally experiencing right next to you is actual work, because you actually have to do something. You guys want to black square your way around politics and around being a good person while telling us that we don't know any better, while also using our history and our civil rights leaders to talk about how we should be moving. Do you think the descendants of the people who did the stuff that you're talking about would know better than you? Yeah, we would. Do you think that your insistence on calling anyone who disagrees with you a liberal helps you? No, it doesn't. And do I think that a white person ever has the room to tell me how to move? No, I don't. So you should sit down and be humble. Listen to Black, trans, and Native people. Black Americans specifically. You guys keep propping up Black people as tokens who aren't Black American because it's more convenient to have someone who agrees with you and comforts you rather than someone who challenges you to do better. Because being better is actual work, and you guys don't want to do actual work.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. This take was absolute garbage, and I'm going to break down every person you got on here that you're defending as to why everybody on the internet is lighting them up. Let's start with Crutches and Spice. Crutches and Spice literally hides behind her disability when she messes up or she does something wrong. She hopped on the internet and said in 4K, Democrats and liberals, specifically Black ones, hopped on the internet and laughed and keyed about children, women, and men being blown up and disparaged in Palestine and Gaza. And we simply asked for proof. Where's the proof of that? That's it. That's not a religious cult thing. That's not a... No, you made a claim. You're not standing on it. You need to be held accountable for that. And the fact that you and your people, the leftists, keep hiding behind her disability too is ableist in itself. You do know that, right? Right? And then we have Saint. Saint is a Black Haitian man who literally makes it his career to try to humble Black women. I don't know. You being Black, if it wasn't for Black women, you wouldn't exist in the first place. The fact that you're harping on the very 92% of voters who are Black women who literally try to save your life and everyone's life, the fact that you trying so hard to humble them is weird to me. And then you try to humble them behind in the guise of non-Black people. Because you're defending non-Black people so much more than you're defending the very women that gave you life is weird. That is why he is getting lit up. It's weird. And then you have Madeline. What more else is there to say? She is anti-Black as hell. The Angela Davis bar, trying to humble black women as well, literally blocking or deleting anyone who is Black that has anything to say about her is just weird. The fact that this white woman is one of the main faces of that movement, which is a movement full of people of color, is insane in itself. And the fact that y'all won't do nothing about that, that is why she is getting lit up. And then there's Maya. She sicked her 2 million followers on a Black woman. Literally, that's what she did. She sicked her 2 million followers on a Black woman and has said some very anti-Black things in the past. She said some extremely xenophobic things about Mexicans in the past. And y'all keep giving her passes. Why? I have no idea. So no, this is not a religious cult sitting here just attacking people for no reason. They're simply holding them accountable, and your people don't like that. And the fact that you're calling it a religious cult, honey, you should look in the mirror. Y'all should look in the mirror. Are you kidding me? Y'all built y'all entire platforms and y'all entire movement at first off of the doing the right thing. And now it has spiraled into y'all movement, trying everything y'all can to humble Black liberals. That's what y'all whole movement is about now. Y'all want to humble Black liberals or Black voices that don't agree with y'all or told y'all to F off or told y'all we need a break or told y'all we on vacation. Y'all want to humble the very people that in our minds, we believe we did the right thing. That's what it comes to. And instead of having a conversation, y'all some cowards that like to block people. Y'all some cowards that are some fake abolitionists and use people's backgrounds as a gotcha moment. Y'all the same fake movement who swear y'all protect Black women, but y'all humble the very Black women who voted them and try to vote the right person in to literally make sure we are all safe in this country. That's what y'all movement is about now. And y'all don't like what y'all see in the mirror. Hope that clears that up.
With all due disrespect, madam, you meant Black, not liberal. You meant Why are Black people criticizing those creators? And the simple answer is, in fact, because they are anti-Black. Because they haven't engaged in anti-Blackness and misogynoir. I find it despicable that during Black History Month, you would come and put this word salad online and act as if you said anything, but it sounds, in fact, like you just had a essay due and you decided to write a bunch of gibberish, use a bunch of big words, and hope that the teacher gave you a C. The fact of the matter is, those creators were called out for anti-Black behavior and for plain out lying. They lied and said that people were laughing. But I would point you to some statistics. 92% of Black women and 85% of Black men voted for Kamala Harris. And no, and I would remind you that across this globe, there are some, including Black people, that are occurring in the world. The problem is that people think solidarity is born of emotional extortion, gaslighting, lying, and manipulating people to get their way. The pragmatism necessary, the nuance necessary to make change is born of a people in this country that understood how to maximize our output with minimal authority besides our bodies to gain change. And the civil rights movement taught us that pragmatism and nuance was a necessary tool in that fight. There's a difference between cause colonizers and accelerationists and leftists. And let's be clear, I'm not talking about leftists. I'm talking about cause colonizers and accelerationists who are more interested in riding in on a moral superiority high horse than they are understanding the impact of their actions. The internet is ripe with people saying, if you vote for Kamala Harris, other people saying, I'd rather vote for Satan, and other individuals engaging in this sort of grandiose thinking that they would somehow burn something down. And in fact, they did. I would remind you that USAID supports people in other countries, many of them Black bodies, many of them brown bodies, that are impacted by the shuttering, the now shuttering of this president of USAID. I'd remind you that that program supported children that were malnourished and starving. It supported vaccinations in countries that did not have them or access to them. It supported HIV and AIDS work that saved millions of lives by giving access to people to antiretroviral drugs. Those programs are in and of itself in this moment probably going to be disintegrated, and millions of people will be left without medicine. And so your suggestion that people somehow, because there are a select few are that they have Black skin, can't be anti-Black is weird on its face. But moreover, I find it peculiar, strange, and irregular that you all are still on this high horse asking people about Kamala Harris, talking about Kamala Harris, suggesting that she should have done stuff differently when she's not in the White House. Right now, there are people whose lives are going to be impacted by folks telling others not to vote, to stay home. Folks that believed that they understood what Kamala Harris should be doing in a given moment when she said she supported a ceasefire, when she said she would, through her actions, do things differently. Now, let's be clear. Some of you lack the ability to understand basic nuance. But the people that you listed wanted Kamala to lose. She lost. Why are you all still talking about it? We're in the find out phase. And some of us have better things to do, like protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, and recognize that there are people in this world that are going to be impacted. And I promise you, they're not in just one country. They're all over the globe. They're in countries like all throughout the African continent. They are in countries all throughout the Middle East. They are in countries all throughout Asia. There are people that are impacted by this presidency in a way that people were satisfied gambling their rights and lives away to prove some sort of point, and you've proven it. Let's say that I acquiesce to the fact that you are morally superior and you are the righteous person. What right do you have to gamble away the rights of others? Shame. For shame. Shame on you all. Shame on you for engaging in this moral superiority gamble with the lives, the ability of others to access life-saving care, and acting as if you are somehow superior because you made a decision based on whatever fact you created in your head without fully thinking about the impact of others. So shame on you, and shame on anybody that would suggest that they don't have accountability in this moment. I wish some of you the best, but I want nothing to do with the solidarity that you have to offer because it is transactional. You got to have your way in order for your action to recognize that there is nuance and pragmatism in every decision. And sometimes the lesser of two evils is just that. Black people in this country have realized that for 400 years. Do you think it just fell on you today and now you know better than the rest of us? No. No. We have learned inch by inch, hard fought, with blood, sweat, tears in our lives, what it means not to win every single fight, every single battle, but to look forward to the complete and total war towards civil rights, civil equity. And some of you fail to meet the moment.
You know, in this conversation, I feel it's important to address what's really being said and, more importantly, who is being left out of this conversation. When this palm color creator mentions liberals in her video, is she referring to Black people, or is she using this term to speak about an entire political ideology? Her focus on targeting liberals in response to the election prediction seems to conveniently ignore the very real struggles of those most marginalized, including Black Americans, Native Americans, and others. Now, my Black brothers' responses cut to the heart of this matter. Progress cannot happen when we are not addressing the needs of the most oppressed. And liberals in many of these contexts have often claimed to stand for progress. But how much of that progress truly benefits those facing systemic racism and oppression? The idea that we are continually asked to support creators who fail to understand the importance of protecting those at the bottom is frustrating. Liberation isn't about pushing for policies that only serve the comfortable. It's about fighting for the people who have been historically silenced and overlooked. When my Black brothers say this is why progress never happens, they are making an important point, because if we continue to focus on abstract political battles and ignore the lived realities of Black people in other marginalized communities, we will always miss the point. So when she talks about liberals, we have to ask, does she really mean Black people? Are Black people being the ones labeled as liberals because Black people demand that those in power focus on our needs? The conversation shouldn't be about whether or not a prediction was accurate. It should be about why so many voices, especially from the most oppressed, are being dismissed. True change comes when we uplift those who need it most. If you ask me, I would say it's honestly wild how easily they get pressed. They should take their own advice and stop being so sensitive, just like they constantly tell Black people to do. The irony is hard to miss. Like, these people still haven't realized that the Black community leads, we don't follow. For far too long, Black people have been the ones setting the tone, shaping the narrative and leading the charge for justice. Yet they continue to act as if Black people are simply reacting to them, when in reality, Black people are always ahead of the curve, pushing for real change. It's time for them to stop pretending that Black voices are just following along and realize that Black people have been leading this entire time. Black people are not waiting for their approval or validation. We've been doing the work, and it's their turn to listen and learn. It's not about sensitivity, it's about truth, accountability, and respecting the leadership of those who've always fought for liberation. Black people have always been the trailblazers, and it's time they recognize that fact. The hypocrisy is staggering. You know, the people she's mentioning in her video are anti-Black, and their actions speak louder than words. Now, we also how they were vocal about not voting for Kamala Harris, actively telling their followers to do the same. A perfect example of this is Maya Ayuni, whose videos I've been posting, so you are all familiar with her content. Now, it's really appalling that when people call out these individuals for their harmful actions, which are now affecting people worldwide, she has the nerve to label them as liberals. This is a classic case of deflection, attempting to shift the focus away from their own anti-Blackness. Now, anti-Blackness is a system of structuring opportunity and assigning value based on social interpretations of how one looks. It's not just about individual prejudices, but about the systemic inequalities that perpetuate racism. When we call out anti-Blackness, we're not being liberal or woke. We're fighting against a system that dehumanizes and marginalizes Black people. And it's time to stop making excuses for anti-Black behavior and start holding people accountable. We need to recognize that anti-Blackness is not just someone else's problem, but a collective issue that requires a collective response. Now, it's really surprising how some of these creators use the Gaza G-side as a convenient excuse to justify their support for Trump over Kamala Harris. Let's be real, this wasn't about genuinely caring for the Palestinian people, but rather a thinly veiled attempt to mask their own anti-blackness. By convincing their followers that Kamala Harris wasn't a good fit due to her policies on Gaza, they managed to sway many into either not voting or casting their ballots for Trump. It's a masterclass in manipulation, like using a critical issue like Gaza to further their own agenda. Now, what's even more disturbing is that this tactic was successful in deterring some people from voting for Kamala Harris, despite her commitment to continuing the Biden administration's policy. And it's a reminder that anti-blackness can manifest in subtle yet insidious ways, often hiding behind seemingly noble causes. We need to call out this kind of hypocrisy and hold these creators accountable for their actions. Using a humanitarian crisis like Gaza as a political pawn is not right at all. And it's not even right to call people who are calling these people out liberals. They did their job. Kamala Harris didn't win. But even now that she's not the one sitting in the White House, they're still talking about her. That's the level of impact she had. Now, it's really fascinating to see how the narrative has shifted. For anyone who didn't recognize Maya Ayuni's anti-blackness before, this situation makes it glaring obvious. Like throughout the political chaos, we all saw how she made her intentions very clear. Yet when the reality of her candidate's actions began to unfold, she conveniently distanced herself from any responsibility. Now that the person she publicly supported, who by the way, openly promised to do exactly what he's doing, furthering harmful policies, she comes back on TikTok claiming she didn't tell anyone to vote for him. Now, this attempt to rewrite history feels like a thinly veiled attempt to save face, and it's frustrating because it's not just about shifting the blame, it's about the consequences of those actions. People like her who, despite knowing the potential harms, play such dismissive games with their influence, end up contributing to an environment that tolerates and perpetuates harmful rhetoric and policies. When you publicly endorse someone, you're not only making a statement about who you support, but you're also aligning yourself with their ideologies, whether they align with your personal values or not. So trying to disavow responsibility after the damage is done shows a lack of accountability and awareness. So can somebody tell me how and why people should be called liberals for calling such people out when they know for sure that their actions made people be in the situation that they are today? We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do you, our viewers, have to say? Share your own thoughts as well in the comment section on what you think about this video. Thank you for always watching, and see you in our next video as we bring you another video.